Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul?
and Jolene. And today we're talking about something called Metacurrency, which I had asked Saul, what does that mean?
Metacurrency. It is a new, well, not new, right?
Not new at all?
Okay. It is a way of giving players the ability to break the rules in a certain way.
That may be a slightly exaggerated idea.
Well, okay, not break the rules, but be able to ignore certain rules of that is normally used. And a lot of newer games use them. I really like the ability to use them when I'm a player, and different games use this idea of a metacurrency in different ways.
I think the first time that I ever saw what a metacurrency was when we were playing your Monterey Dresden game.
Right.
You gave everybody a couple of actual poker chips.
Yeah, it's called fate chips.
And you told us that they were fate chips and that we could use them if we failed at something or if we wanted to change something or if we needed to re-roll or wanted to change how the dice, because in that game you use the plus and minus dice, right?
Right.
So that was the first time I had ever really heard it called fate points or metacurrency. Or
Yeah, when I ran Monterey Dresden, because I used the fate system and the fate system has fate chips, it is a natural part of the game. And what happens is this mechanic, and almost every mechanic like it, that whether you call it bennies, plot points, fate chips, momentum, it is a way of saving the player's bacon a lot of times, or giving them a chance to be epic in their successes, right? Or those clutch rolls when the adventure is at a point where this roll really could use some help, and I really want to try to make it. So that's how metacurrency works. Now, some are really integral to the game, like fate. Fate is this, like, that's the way the game rolls, right? The GM gets fate points, gives fate points, and it's this trade back and forth between the player and the GM. Where other games, it's like you get 2 fortune points and that's it. And I think Feng Shui uses fortune points and stuff like that. And once those points are gone, they're gone for good, or at least until the next session or something significant happens.
Shadowrun has a
essence, right?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I think essence is how human you are. I think I read it wrong this morning.
You're right. That essence is how human you are. But they have also a save your bacon mechanic.
They do. And it has specific rules. Like if your dice roll, it tells you can spend this point and you only get like I think I have 5 of them.
Because you're human.
Yeah. So it depends on your race. And then you can say, okay, this is, and it tells you exactly what you can do. Because it's old school game, right? It gives you, this is when you spend this is what you can do. You can either do this, this, or this. It gives you 3 different things.
Yeah, it is the Shadowrun is an old game, but its editions have gone through quite a bit of changes. And I don't know, I can't remember how much the changes have been, but I'm pretty sure that, not the essence, but that luck or that mechanic has been there since the very beginning.
I was reading for COC or Call of Cthulhu that luck in Call of Cthulhu, that's what they call it, right?
Yes.
And the person said you can use luck to help your rolls where you're just off by a few points and you literally use your luck until you run out of luck and then you have no more luck. And then that's when you start to lose your sanity more.
Well, nothing's going to stop
the sanity
that from
loss,
happening, right? In the Call of Cthulhu game,
but your luck can put it off or help you do a couple things.
I don't even remember using luck in the Call of Cthulhu. If I had luck, I would have saved myself in that game.
I think you didn't have very much luck. Oh. You only get it a little bit.
I would have just tried, where the guy blew my head off.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, you turned into a demon or something.
Yeah.
Or got possessed.
Yeah.
That sucked. Okay, so Metacurrency. Why are we talking about it? Well, somebody posted on Facebook, and I read the Facebook post, and he was kind of negative about Facebook. He was negative about the Metacurrency. How a lot of new designers, game designers, and a lot of new games have this built-in Metacurrency, and call it whatever you want. And he thought it was he didn't like that play style. He liked the old play style, like you just whatever that is on your paper, and with no luck, no plot points, and if the dice are cruel, the dice are cruel, and there's nothing to save your bacon. And I played that game. I played that game back in the days, D&D, AD&D, and original D&D, and when I was about 11 or 12. My brother killed me with a ray of death. Killed my character, I should say. And I was pretty upset. I was pissed off, actually, because I was like 8th level or something. And there was no resurrection at that time because it was like you needed a ton of money. And though we probably could have resurrected me, I don't know why I was so upset. But I was so upset because I failed the saving throw. Death ray, boom. He throws a death ray, some cleric does. I try to make my saving throw. I rolled low. My fault, I guess. And boom, I'm dead. Instant death. And then my brother goes, that's just the way the rules say. And let me tell you, I was livid and upset. And I'm like,
why? Why does that happen?
Well, at the time I was just mad, right? I'm like, whatever. And then I forget what happened. I think this was original D&D, maybe AD&D, and I don't remember the rules. Actually, I don't own the rule books anymore. But it was if you got resurrected, you would lose a point of Constitution, and my Constitution's already low. And then there's a percentage chance that you wouldn't make it. The resurrection process was like traumatic to your body. And it was another die roll, and it was like 50,000 gold or some bull crap like that. Anyway, I played that way, and it was fine, and I got over it after a while. And I don't honestly.
And you moved on.
I don't remember if they resurrected me or not, but I remember we just kept playing.
When you talked about this topic, and I was reading about it, I read a person who later you told me was a game designer said that it depends on how you want your players to enjoy the game, what you want your game to be about. Is it about a lot of newer games and all games, obviously, because that was original D&D or AD&D? People are attached to their player characters. You become attached to your player character. And do you want this person to have rolled up a character and you kill it off because they're first level and they get hit by something, right? And then they have to re-roll their character. Do you want that to happen? Is that the kind of game that you want? Or do you want to have an intervention? And like I was talking to a couple...
A chance.
Right? I was talking to a couple of GMs yesterday, and one was saying, when players get to a certain level, the thing is, they're invested in their character, and you are pulling your punches because you're rolling really, really well, and you're going to kill these people, the whole party. So as the GM, you're pulling your punches because they're invested in their characters. That's what he was saying. And he was telling me that they have high armor classes and stuff like that. So when you get to a certain level, the monsters or magicians or whatever's coming at them has higher stuff, right? Their weapons do much more damage. So he goes, so if you're rolling really, really well, it would be nice to have the players be able to put out a chip and say, oh, well, I would like to change that roll, or I would like to have a chance to succeed at this.
Right.
Instead of the GM having to go, well, okay, I'm either rolling behind the screen so you don't see that you've died 5 times in this episode and I'm telling you didn't, or do you allow the people to see what you're rolling and allow them to use their fate points or whatever to be able to adjust so there's not a total party kill, because the GM doesn't want to do that, right? That's what he was saying.
There's all kinds of stuff unpacked in that short statement. One, I used to be exactly like that. I used to pull punches when I thought that the combat was going against the characters. And I had to get myself away from that way of thinking for myself. I know this is kind of we're going a little bit off topic, only because I would say there's always a chance that the characters could try to get away. If the fight is just too much, stop the fight. And I think there's all kinds of things you can do to try
intervene
to
in that.
exit the fight in a way that's going to be successful. Now, if you're facing, let's say, for example, your party's up against a dragon. The dragon is this big, powerful thing, and it is pounding you, and the characters try to escape. Now, if they're in the lair of the dragon's lair, they could try to get out of the lair. But let's say you're out in the open, and this dragon's upset, and it will chase you no matter what. So it all depends on the circumstances. I understand not wanting to have a total party kill. I've never had one. I have never DM'd a total party kill, and I would say a long time ago, it was because I would intervene and not let it happen. Then later on, I'm like, okay, guys, learn that some things are not going to be, you're not going to be able to handle. You should either avoid them or tackle it from a different way. Now, you got that message, but I'm not sure certain players in my group got that message, because they would go ahead and antagonize the dragon no matter what. Luckily for them, the way I had written the adventure, that dragon was hobbled in a certain way. He couldn't leave his lair by some magical means, and the players didn't know that. So at one point, I think you were like, get the heck out of there, right? Because one of the rogue went in and tried to steal gold from the dragon, and you're like, that's a dumb idea. And I agree. It was a dumb idea. And I blasted him, and I blasted him with some fire, and I think he was able to dodge really good because he's a rogue.
Right.
But he still got singed quite a bit because he took 4th damage, and it was more than half his hit points. So he decided to leave. Right. And then at that point, they realized that he was stuck in that cave by magical means.
Because he didn't come out and kill all of them.
They come out and kill all of you. Okay, so I understand that point of view, and I think as a GM, you have to grow. He's kind of a young GM, I think you were talking to, and that's
it was an old GM.
Oh, really? And at that point, I'm like, I don't think I would do that anymore because it kind of, what is it they say? That was one of the points that the person who posted this Metacurrency says, if death is not on the table, and I'm using my friend's version of that, then they aren't afraid of dying, and so there's no like
consequences,
right? They know that they're invincible when they go in, and it's kind of like, how fun is that game? But when you're worried about, I think when I run games where the players know that I'm not pulling any punches because I'm rolling on the table. I don't roll behind the screen anymore. The only thing behind my screen, if I ever use one, are my notes. And I don't even use screens anymore, or hardly. The only reason I use a screen now is because if I'm playing a newer game, a lot of the rules are there, and I don't have the rules memorized like I do for other games. So I'm rolling dice on the table, and my players know that, okay, the battle's going against us. What are we going to do? They don't automatically just keep fighting thinking, oh, Saul's going to save my bacon. So, Saul never kills the character. And there was been a couple fights where it was close, and you guys were worried. I think it was probably D&D. And it was like a close fight. And I think like Steve was down to like 10 hit points. The only one that had a lot of hit points was probably Augustine and Alan. Yeah. And everybody else was just smoked. It was like they were down to like, out of like 70 or 80 hit points, they were down to like their teens.
I never have 70 or 80 hit points.
Some of the characters, not you. You're a squishy wizard. So I think that was one of the arguments that this poster had about Metacurrency, is that it's too easy to survive. So therefore, there's no possibility. Not according to him, there's no possibility or very slight possibility of death. And when death is off the table, then it's not real, or it's not as exciting. And I agree. I agree with the fact that if death is not on the table, or is not even going to have a very good chance, then I agree that then the characters are running wild. It's like Disneyland or whatever. But I don't run games that way anymore.
I think that death is always on the table, according to Shannon. And when Ian was the other person that I was talking to yesterday, and he said that for any kind of a Benny or a fate point or whatever you want to call it, that is to allow your character, because you're a heroic character most of the time, whatever you're playing, Shadowrun or whatever, these plot points or momentum or whatever, it just gives you a chance to succeed.
Yes.
You may die horribly at your attempt, but at least you had that opportunity to try to get out of what you did, or to try to make what you want to do happen.
Right. Save the party or something.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So I disagree with the original poster on a number of things, right? So I don't know. I don't think that the newer game designers, RP role-playing game designers, are cheap and lazy, because
I think that the poster just said that to
annoy
people because that's not a constructive criticism.
I don't know. I mean, I disagree with this guy quite a bit, and a lot of it comes that he's an older guy. He's like my age, if not a little bit older. So I mean, he's been playing a long time, and I understand that homage or feeling that that's the way it was played, that's the way it should be played. At the very first, he goes, "I don't like this new wave of Metacurrency." I think it was Metacurrency is what he called it. This new wave of so many games coming out with all these meta plots, or not meta plots,
Currencies.
Metacurrencies. And he kind of sounded like an old Grognard, right? It was like, I don't even want to play OSR games.
But I think he really wanted to just have a discussion about it.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. And I have. He does post a lot, and he does have a lot of discussions, and a lot of discussions are worthwhile having. This one had a lot of responses, a lot of them, and a lot of responses were like, well, I disagree with you. I like metacurrencies. It doesn't make that characters don't die, and they would.
And the idea was that it breaks you out of it breaks you out of
immersion
in the game. It stops the role playing aspect. And it depends on the game, right? If it's a simulation game like D&D, and you're using a advantage, disadvantage, or you're saying, I would like to re-roll that dice. Okay, is there something I can do that is going to mitigate these circumstances? That's a simulationist game, right? But like if you're playing Feng Shui and you use what do they call in Feng Shui?
Fortune.
A fortune, then you're doing it to try to. You could be doing it in character, right? My character wants to do, or I'm going to try. That didn't work, so I'm going to try to run up that wall again,
or something. Describe why he gets a second chance.
Right.
They get a second chance at doing whatever, or why something happens.
It doesn't have to take you out of the.
And by the same measure, if you're talking about what your character is doing, because he was talking the difference between player actions and character actions. In basically using Metacurrency, the player is doing something with the GM to have an effect in the game, and the character is not doing anything. But then again, if you really dig down to it, what about combat? The player is rolling the dice and has nothing to do with swinging a sword or casting a spell in the game. So, I mean, it gets really ridiculous sometimes when you try to compare what's going on. Ultimately, there was a lot of people who came up with a lot of points about having characters die too easily in games. And a lot of people were like me. There was one poster who said, I played in those games. I was a first level wizard with 2 hit points. I had 1 spell. I died constantly, and it sucked. It sucked a lot, and I didn't like that, and I wouldn't want to play that game again today. And I totally agree with that. I mean, I was lucky. Or maybe my brothers dodged the rules or fudged the rules or fudged the die rolls, because I had a wizard in original D&D who made it to 8th level until he got the Ray of Death. But he made it past 1st level, 2nd level, and he didn't have a ton of hit points, because all I got was a freaking 4-sided die for hit points with a Constitution bonus, which I didn't have one. So I was greatly protected by my fellow players. And then there was another post that was made about Epic Games, right? I think it was, I forget what game it was, but it was billed as a high epic fantasy game. And then the person said, well, if you try to play that way, you're going to be playing crippled characters missing arms, legs, eyes, and trying to get experience and money to cure your missing legs, your eyes, and stuff. And she goes, and that was if you try to play the way the rules say, not the rules, but the game says it's supposed to be played. But in the actual rules, they were punishing.
Right.
So obviously there was a disconnect there, and that happens too. I mean, when we play, I should say, Feng Shui. This says high cinematic action, and it indeed is that, because character death isn't really on the table very much.
If you ever watch a Hong Kong action film, literally, I don't remember which film it was, but you see the bullets, the bullets are going around the person. And that's how I think of Feng Shui, right?
Right.
You have some, crazy ability that the bullets are going to go around you.
Oh, you're so fast and you're dodging bullets.
You're literally dodging.
Or you have a sword and you're hitting the bullets to the side. And in Feng Shui, they also talk about character death, because indeed it will happen or it can happen. But they say in the rules, it says make sure that the character dies
heroic.
Right. It should, and in Feng Shui, you're not going to get hit by a stray bullet. It's going to do 80 points of damage and you instantly die. And it's funny because in the game it says no matter how much damage they take, they could take a huge amount of damage. Let's say they're already hit down to like 10 hit points. I don't know if they use hit points.
You check off the little things on the bottom of your sheet.
Yeah, they're like hit points or something. But let's say you take some massive damage. It says and it tells you to do this. It says you have your flashback scene where the character, the player, goes through, tells the group what's he's seen, flashbacks of his life, and then he's able to do something in the death throes to save the party or to continue the fight for one round and have an impact. And I think that's amazing, and I think that's the way that game is built. It's true the way they wrote the rules, and it's included. And I think that's what normal. That's what modern games are doing. Is they know people get highly invested in games. I mean, in their characters, not just game, but in their character. And suffering a death merely because you missed a saving throw or somebody just rolled massive critical is not fun.
Well, and I think Metacurrency helps with that, right? You can either, can I use this chip to re-roll my dice, or can I make that not happen? But also, there's different ways that Metacurrency is used. Like Conan is a great one where, or any D20 game, or 2D20 game, where you either get momentum or you can push your rolls, right? And
you give Doom out. You can give the GM a Doom.
Yeah. So it works in your favor and your detriment, right? You can push it so that you can do something, but then the GM has extra dice to roll or extra. He gets to go first, or different things like that.
Yeah, he can do different things, and I use that. I use that to go first a lot of times.
Yes, because
it matters in Conan.
Right.
And when I would pull that Doom chip out, I'm like, I'm gonna go first, and they're like, oh.
But that makes the game more exciting.
Right, because they know I'm going to try to mess them up. And I think, I like 2D20 system, even though it is a Metacurrency. But I like the explanations, momentum. That in itself tells you what's going on. For example, in most games, if you do really well on a roll, wow, okay, you did really well. Big deal. Maybe you do double damage. But let's say you do, your rolls are really good. There's nothing you could do with that going above and beyond, right? In the momentum, there's a pool where you put a chip in. I use dice just to make it easy. And what happens is other people can use that chip because you're rolling, 2D20 system, you roll D20s.
2.
Two d20s, right? So you roll d20. So what I do is I have a cup and I write momentum on it, and anytime they roll are successful, they're able to do the whatever they're trying to do. But if they get more successes than they need, then the extra successes can be put into that pool, and other players can use it. And I like the idea that they call it momentum because the party as a whole is gaining momentum. It's getting the luck or whatever.
Right.
It's
You see your friend has done something great, and then
Right.
it inspires you to do something
Correct.
great, and you get to take that dice. And the momentum pool is a cool idea because then everybody goes, "Are you going to use the momentum?" And you're thinking, "Should I use it? Am I going to be successful at this roll because I have an extra thing? I get to roll 3 d20s instead of 2, right?
Right.
Or am I going to need it? And if I don't make it, am I going to die? Or am I going to...
Yeah, there's all kinds of things.
There's all kinds of things that go into it. Do I want to give it to the person who has less abilities than I do, or their abilities aren't as good, right?
Right.
So you all choose, and everybody, whenever anybody gets the extra, you put it in, and then, like me, I always use it because usually I don't have as much abilities as...
I really like the idea of momentum, and it makes sense to me that if the party is rolling real well, then the tide of fortune is with them. Right.
And sometimes you're rolling really crappy, and all that momentum is gone, right? Because everybody's used it, and
Yeah,
that's just the way. Yeah.
And then when you see that momentum pool is empty, then you know things are kind of going against you. Yeah. So the idea of momentum in that sense to me makes sense. It doesn't break me out of this. What is it? It doesn't break me out of immersion of the game, and I think that was one of this poster's biggest gripes, that it breaks you out of immersion by using these points that somehow don't even have to be explained in the game.
The one comment that I thought was really odd was that this is a new thing.
Yes.
And then I'm like going, but I don't think that's true.
Right.
And Shadowrun is an old game. It has it. Call of Cthulhu has it. It's an old game.
Yeah.
Top Secret had stuff called Fate and Fame.
Fame, yes.
That was 1980. So I don't think that it's a new thing.
Yeah, I think he made a mistake in that sense, and I think he backtracked a little bit, but he did say, well, he basically said that a lot of newer designers, a lot of more newer games, a lot of new games are using that kind of mechanic.
And I think the one of the posters, maybe a game designer said, well, it depends. Maybe we've learned a little bit how invested people are in their characters, and we want to give them the opportunity to be able to keep that character instead of having to re-roll your first level wizard 5 times until you make it through. Because people aren't going to want to play if they have to do that, right? It's a game. People spend a lot of time creating these characters, unless it's an easily created character game, like Tales from the Loop, and then you don't kill off the kids, right? That's not the goal of the game because you're playing kids,
right? And this isn't too much later that when they become teenagers, or older teenagers, I should say, that death is on the table.
Yeah, you're not going to put death on the table for 10-year-olds because then people are not going to play in your game.
Right. And I think, a lot of posts, and I agreed with a lot of posts that countered his thoughts on this idea of metacurrency. And there was a lot of them that really touched bases with me, because I am just like that one poster who said, I've been there when my characters died left and right, and a lot of people get invested in their characters. It happened back then. But it was just like, okay, it's just something you had to deal with. And so...
and that also took you out of playing out of role playing, right? If you're standing in front of a door in a dungeon and everybody has to roll to try to unlock it, whether they have the skill or not, because the person with the skill couldn't do it. And you cannot move from that spot and the GM's just saying, okay, you have to try again.
Yeah, it sucks.
And it doesn't always have to do with death. It sometimes has to do with you're stuck somewhere.
Right.
And you're trying to figure something out. Or you're trying to break into a safe and there's people looking for you. Things like that, right? It helps to move the game along with the metacurrency versus everybody has to roll.
Yeah, someone can say, you know what, I'm going to bust this door down here. It's Chip. I'm just going to grab my axe and chop off the lock.
Yeah.
and boom.
Versus, because
Target the lock, whatever.
so that actually moves the game forward and doesn't inhibit the role playing, right?
I don't think so. And I think, I don't know. I mean, I was surprised at the original poster staunchness and all these people I thought had made some very good points, and I agreed with most of them. And some of them must have been my age or older, because they were talking about AD&D and how much it sucked that they kept dying, or the total party kill. How many people have? I was surprised at how many people have been in total party. I've never been in one, except for once, only lately in the last 5 years, and I've never GM'd one, except for Alien. And even in Alien, some of them lived. So there you go. So I think when you equate this old style of gaming without any chance of saving the character's bacon, I think it's for people to be able to have a chance to save the character and continue having fun. And then even with the metacurrency, if that happens, they go, well, at least I had a shot to save my character. And it didn't happen. So the fates were really against me. The fates were against that character. It's easier to accept, other than, a straight arrow hits me in the head, triple, quadruple damage. I'm dead. It was fascinating to see the back and forth between the poster and the people who responded. And there are some people who agreed with them. They agreed with this. I like that old style of playing. Men were men, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. That wasn't a very good argument. And the counter arguments to me were very well thought out. And they were very clearly written. And I thought and I agree with them most. And I think metacurrencies are here to stay. I don't think they're terrible for your game. I don't think they break immersion. It depends on how you use them, right? It depends on how you phrase it, or how the game itself uses them in the game. And a lot of them are used very, very, very cleverly, and it's integral to the game. It's just not something that comes out of left field and says, I'm just gonna whatever, here's a fate point or whatever plot point, and I got a wand of fireballs and I'm gonna fire. That does not happen, right?
No.
So I like the metacurrencies because I think it gives you the chance to be epic if that's the kind of game you want to run.
And I think that people in general, they may or may not like it, but a lot of people do want to keep that character alive or allow their character to do things because they invested a lot of time into and they're invested in it emotionally, right?
Yes.
And I'm always surprised at how invested people are into their characters emotionally, because I look at the character and sure, it's a nice character, but I know that it could die at any time and I can make a new one. But the idea of making the death meaningful, like in Feng Shui or things like, I think it's a more of a, I don't want to say sensitive, but it gives people more of a chance to, okay, well, if I do die, at least I got a second opportunity to try to not do that, right?
Right.
Or I can use my death as a way to save my party, that kind of thing.
And I think, one commenter said, well, the fact that a lot of designers are using metacurrency tells you that they're able to read the public, read what the people want, and they're including them because that's what the kind of gameplay that new players want to play. And it is a way of giving people what they want. If metacurrencies were not popular and people didn't like them, you wouldn't see so many with metacurrencies coming out. So it's the exact opposite. So I think as a designer, you want to sell as many games as you want, as you can, and be successful in that sense. So you design a game that's going to be popular. You think, hopefully.
I didn't think of it that way, but there you go. I was just thinking that, that's a good idea. That's a good point, that the designers do want to sell their games.
Right. And they can, and that's what one person said, they can read the room, right? They know.
That's yeah.
They know. They're trying to please people as best they can.
Or get people invested in the game, right?
And those days of instant death and meaningless death are definitely going out the window.
And like I said, it's not all about death, right?
No,
it's about
being successful.
being successful, moving the game along, allowing your character to do things that you think they should be able to do, or you have a chance to do it, right?
Right, and being a chance of being spectacular,
Yeah.
or being epic is one of the ways, or heroic is another way of putting it. And I think that's what people want. I mean, I don't want to play accountants and I don't know what's another one, accountants and
I don't know, but I take offense at that remark.
accountants and bean counters.
I take offense at that remark too.
RPG. Okay, Stan.
Do
What
this
are we going to do
spreadsheet.
about these EPS reports?
I do that at work. Thank you very much.
The TPS reports are unreadable today. Okay. Yeah, I think I mean, the problem is I like a lot of games that have that mechanic.
The mechanics make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Like, especially things like momentum or you can, even in the old style games like Shadowrun, they give you this opportunity that, you know, you failed. So here's your opportunity. You can do this, this, or this.
Right. And I think when people tell you what they want, they tell you by buying the stuff. They tell you by spending money.
Yeah.
And you know those games are well, they're all over my freaking bookshelves.
That's a different story.
So go out there and play some games. Metacurrency, is it anti-RP? I don't think so. I think it makes it for a more exciting game. People are able to save the characters a little easier. It doesn't make it impossible to kill characters or anything like that. GMs can do that anytime. It doesn't, you know, they can ignore metacurrencies and stuff like that. And I think because there's so many out there, I think that's what most people want. That's the style that most people want to play.
So there you go. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
and you have a good day.